Hi, I'm Nairi. I'm an adopter. I've got adopted boys who are 12 and 13, and my channel is all about sharing information, facts, experiences to help would-be adopters and adopters along their journey. And today is going to be a more chatty video, a more informal video, where I'm not really going to edit, and I'm going to chat to you about situations in our family and how we're coping, how things are doing. And I know for some of you who have been following me for longer that sometimes you just enjoy that informal video. It's a bit like doing a live stream. It's a little bit more, you get to know me. So if that's not for you, don't worry, check out my channel. There's lots and lots of information that you can tap into. Check out the adoption preparation playlist, tap onto that and have a look and see what you can find. And there's also a therapeutic parenting playlist, which I'm sure that you'll find useful. So I will be grabbing a coffee in a minute as I talk to you at length about what's going on in our family. So we've got two adopted boys, as you may know. One has got developmental delay, almost up to the point of at least say 3 years, and the other has very lacking in attention and angry outbursts and that type of stuff. And for us, of course, we have to deal with them, parent them in different ways, but there are similarities to it as well. You know, we do have to keep quite tight boundaries. So we want to help their healing process, of course, from their trauma, but we also find that we have to have pretty rigid boundaries and routines to make life work. Now recently I've talked about in my channel about going for assessment and additional needs. So although this is a more informal video, this is also about dealing with additional needs and special needs. And so for those of you who may have adopted children that you believe have got that, or you're dealing with that, this might be really helpful for you. So for a long time, of course, we have been dealing with trauma, childhood trauma, and for a long time we've been doing therapeutic means, like we've been doing different therapies all the way through the boys' lives, because we've had them from 2 and 3 I should say. So we've done lots and lots of therapy, different therapeutic approaches, and some have been effective, some not so effective, but it's all helped them. Like, I wouldn't say it hasn't helped them. But as time's gone on, we've noticed that there are certain traits, shall we say concerns about them, about their development, about the way they function, that have led us to kind of question a little bit more. And I've been questioning it for a long time. I haven't really wanted to move forward in some ways, because I haven't wanted to have the boys with labels. I haven't wanted to maybe admit to myself that there is a lot more deeper problems that maybe are developmental and might not go away. But more importantly than that, the primary school, we call it primary and comprehensive in our country. You might have high school, low school, I don't know how it works, but up until the age about 10, they're in the first type of school, and they were very much, they're making progress, they're doing okay, and not really picking up on anything major. We did have sort of meetings with them where we would sit down and talk about things, but it was very much, your boys are doing very well, and we felt they were, but we knew they were a long way behind, and we could see certain traits developing which were a little bit worrying. But yeah, we didn't really think anybody was going to move forward with any of it. So it wasn't until my older son went to comprehensive that things really started to change, and that's what I'm going to explain to you now, to where we've got to. As the SENCO started to say to us, well, if you've done all these things and he's not making any progress, then shouldn't we start to look at something else? It's like, hallelujah, yes, I definitely think we should. So that's been, I've said that on other videos about how that's happened. So my eldest son has gone for quite a lot of assessments now. So he's done speech and language, which showed severe language development delay, and he's been off to a geneticist to do like genetic kind of tests, and they haven't found anything specific, but they're going to do more tests. But that professional said no to fetal alcohol syndrome. Okay, so you can't really question a geneticist about that, but I'm not sure. I wasn't sure, but I thought, well, you can't question that. And he has had a psychologist report, which we haven't actually seen, but I think shows lots of cognitive difficulties, and working memory processing and that type of thing is a problem for him. So he is on another waiting list for a neurodivergent development assessment. That's what I think, or neurodiversity assessment, that's what I think it's called. Now, I'm in the UK, where you are, things might happen very differently, but I'm going to draw a principle out of this at the end of the video, so hopefully you'll watch all the way through. I'm going to draw a principle for you. Okay, so he is on the waiting list for that, but my younger son was put on that list as soon as he went to comprehensive. So he was ahead of my older son on this specific list, but hasn't had the speech and language and geneticist stuff, because we came at different angles because their needs were different. So the appointment has come through for the younger son. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, if you know me, you'll know that the younger son is extremely challenging. Okay, he is extremely challenging. So we've got this appointment this week, Thursday, and so I will report back when I know a little bit more about how that goes, maybe in a month or so, about how it went and what the results were for you. So we have had to fill out lots of forms for this, obviously, and describe our son's behaviours. But before we had this appointment, then someone rang me and said, I want to tell you what we're going to do, and I want you to tell me how he is now and describe to me his behaviours. So I started talking to her about all the things that happen in the home, all the things that happen leading up to events, and she just kept saying, wow, that's a lot of things, isn't it, to deal with? And then I'd say something, she'd say, oh, that's extremely that's what autistic children do, she said. Then I say something else, she say, oh, that's what happens with this. And I was thinking, all this time I've seen these traits in him, lots of traits from lots of potential diagnoses, but who knows, and everybody's always said it's trauma, childhood trauma. So the first thing I want to say to you is, yes, of course our children have experienced childhood trauma. Yes, of course a lot of what they do, a lot of what they say might be relating to that. But the issue with that is, what I found anyway, is that nobody wants to look at anything else, and that's a bit of a danger. And obviously our boys are older now, so the behaviours that were always there are so much more obvious now as teenagers. But I kind of feel gutted in a way that I didn't push for something earlier. But that's another story, isn't it? And I can't change anything now. So she was voluntarily kind of saying, well, yeah, that would fit into this and that would fit into that, without me having to say anything. And then she said, so this is what we test for. We test for fetal alcohol syndrome, autism, ADHD, Tourette's, and dyspraxia. So I was like, oh, okay. Wow, that's a lot. And she said yes, and she said, and if we test for fetal alcohol syndrome and we decide that yes, that is there, it doesn't mean to say that some of the other things aren't there as well. So I then said to her about my son the other son having gone to a geneticist, and that she did like almost like a body check on him, because neither of them have the obvious facial defects, but there are a few things about the way they look. And she had said, no, we had it in a letter, he doesn't have fetal, this is the older one, but they've both come from the same circumstance, they both were premature, and so it stands to reason that they're both at risk of it. And she said no, and it was in letter form. So I said to the lady that I had my older son on the list for them as well, and she said to me, well, she was probably looking at some different aspects of it. So I said, so you would potentially test my older son for fetal alcohol syndrome and all these things as well? And she said yes. So one of the things I want to say to you, this is not the end of the video, by the way, but what I want to say to you is, in principle, if we hadn't have put our older son down for this other screening kind of assessment process then, which is key, the key one would be autism, I guess, but there are other things as well, then he wouldn't have been looked up for fetal alcohol syndrome again, but there's a chance he still has it. And so he would have missed a loop. He would have missed that loop. And I think, obviously you might be in a country that deals with this wholly and solely differently from the UK, but my experience of the UK system is, I think, because we don't pay for anything, and we are very lucky that we don't pay, but then it can be a bit disjointed. So one child might get a different experience than another child, and I'm the proof of that, because I've got two children who are only a year apart, having a different experience of assessment, because we started them off on a slightly different pathway, but actually they should get the same experience, especially if I know their traits are different, but they've also got lots of similarities in their traits as well. So that was just something that kind of came out of the fact that we might end up with a lot more happening now than what I thought. And so what could happen, especially with the younger one, is he could happen to have more than one thing. Whereas when he was younger and he was in foster care, or we were the foster carers, some of the pediatric did look at him, and the way that they said it was, he has lots and lots of different traits of lots of different things, but not enough to diagnose him for any one thing. So it could be that it was all there, but because it was too complex to diagnose. And I think that we've made a mistake by not coming forward sooner and trying to push sooner. But whether we would have got anywhere with the primary school, I doubt. And I suppose, shall we say that we wanted to work with the boys as much as possible to see if we could not eradicate some of the behaviours, but mitigate them, and then see kind of what happened. But then I think we left it a couple of years too late before we've come forward for these assessments. I think these assessments should have happened a couple of years ago, when all these traits were there 100%, and somebody could have definitely looked at them for us. So that's that situation, really, which, yeah, I'm not looking forward to the assessment. It's so there's one lot of 3 hours, and then the following week one lot of 3 hours. But when you think 6 hours, and we might actually get some answers, and then they meet to discuss their findings, and then they do a report, then they share the report with us, and so she was saying that by the beginning of July we should have a diagnosis, if there is one to have. We'll have it by the beginning of July. Well, that's incredible. I mean, we've waited forever to go on the list, but that is incredible if that can happen. So my reasoning for pushing forward for all of this is not really to say, aha, I knew it, he's got this, he's got that, and look, we've got all these problems and issues. My real heartfelt reason for doing this is because when they go into late teens and adulthood, they're going to need a lot of extra support. I think they're going to need a lot of extra support to get into some sort of training that suits them, and also for them to then find suitable employment. And I don't think that we have the skills or the knowledge to do that. So I'm really pleased that the Senko from the school said that, especially with the older one, she can see how he could go off for a day release a week, maybe do some animal care, and then that could lead on to an basic animal care course, and that could feed into his interests. And I hope then that would be similar with the younger son as well, that we need to feed into their interests, because I don't think, well, I'm 100% sure the older one will not be able to enter the exam system in the same way as everybody else. Maybe the younger one will, but I think it's going to be very touch and go even with him. And so a future employer needs to see what they are good at and what they can offer society, and that's what we're going to try and do, is go with those interests, etc., etc. So the younger one has a birthday coming. I've got a really itchy nose this morning, I'm really sorry. So the younger one has a birthday coming. He's already telling me he's anxious, so that's good, because he's learning to tell me, whereas I think before we just have him all over the place and he wouldn't want to say, so he's quite anxious about it. We've just got a few friends coming for a laser tag thing, and I asked him about a cake, and he said he just wanted a carrot cake. That's nice and easy. And again, I think sometimes he just doesn't want the fuss, so he is getting anxious. So we do have lots of things that happen when he's anxious. So if you have an autistic child, or you have a child that has those types of traits, then you'll notice when they have social events coming up, how anxious they get. I have had to edit this video a little bit because I have a really itchy nose. So they get anxious, don't they? And we've started to find with him that more and more we are seeing like jerks of the head and the body, strange things going on with his eyes, and he struggles to sleep and things when things are building up. And then once his birthday's over, he'll probably be fine. And so sometimes what should be a really nice event actually causes him lots of anxiety. So we're learning to curb expectations a little bit, and you know, not go for anything too big. I think gone are the days of large parties for him. I don't think they'll ever work, and we could have quite happily just taken one child to somewhere quite special with him, but we've just got a few children and I think that'll work okay. And then we're going away on holiday in a couple of weeks' time with some of my adult children, and so there'll be anxiety around that as well, I'm sure, but it will do us good as a family to go away and have those memories and that gel time and things like that. And sometimes I find that it's the little things that can be really nice with the boys. So Tim is training them to get their leg muscles going because they're going to be climbing a bit of a mountain. I'm not going to be, but they are, as a family, they're going to be trying to climb Snowdonia. And so he's going on like little walks around the locality with their walking boots on and stuff like that, and building up their muscles. They're, to be honest, for quite lean boys, they're pretty good at that sort of thing. And so just trotting around, I started the walk with them and just trotting around with them, then they'll suddenly come out with something that just makes you really laugh. So I've had a lot of trouble with my knee and my foot. It's just, you know, getting older, and I've been trying to lose weight, but I've had a lot of trouble with any walking. So I did that little trot, and the older one said, "It's just like you're getting younger, Mum. It's just like you're getting younger because you're walking. You're walking." I thought, how sad. Sad. I'm getting younger because I'm actually walking. But they just come out with the cutest little things sometimes. And when I had to go into school recently, I had to deeply share their history with the SENCO who was putting together the EHCP for the older child, and it was heartbreaking to go back over it. It's a reminder for me of how much they've gone through and how well they've done, and really how they've managed to stay alive through all that, come out the other end, and then actually build lives for themselves, because I had to go into all the detail. And it was shocking to say it out loud, and the SENCO was shocked as well. And yeah, it is a reminder of how well they've done, really. But we were talking about different things, and I said how hard it is sometimes, and how every day is difficult. Every day has new challenges. It's really quite stressful at times. And then I said, but I know they love us. And she went, oh, they do. She said, they really love you. And I kind of looked at her, she went, yeah, they do, as if she said, you know, I've had conversations and I know how much they love you. And that was really sweet. And at one point she stopped me and said, are you okay? Because I was going into this graphic detail. I was just about to burst into tears, and I managed to distract the conversation, because I just thought, yeah, when you get further on into the adoption process and you've had children for such a long time, you do learn to forget some of the horrible details, because actually you don't want to remember that every day. You don't want the secondary trauma from that. But also when you go back over it again, it's just a reminder of how much your children have gone through and how well they do, and it makes you feel really emotional. So I hope that's just useful to you guys. I'll link some video playlists at the end for you. So if you're new to the adoption sort of thoughts and process, I will link one of my playlists for you. Perhaps I'll link the attachment one, which might be interesting for you, and you can look at the different types of attachment styles, insecure attachment, all that type of thing. You might find that interesting. So see you on my adoption channel for other types of videos, of which there are different styles and types of videos. And thank you for watching Adoption with Nairi.